Welcome to the How to Be Awesome at Your Job podcast.
We've got to reframe confidence, gravitas, not as a behavior, but as a choice and a mindset. Confidence is not a state of being, it's a total approach, because every single day you're going to face setback, disappointment, fear, insecurity. Most of us wake up in a deficit mindset, focused on what's missing in our life or what the weaknesses are, versus focusing on the abundance we have, the talents we bring, our superpowers. If you reset that for yourself every day, that drives the behaviors and outcomes you want in life.
That's Lisa Sun. She's known as the Dress Whisperer, and her company, Gravitas, is on a mission to catalyze confidence. Gravitas offers innovative apparel and content, and before founding Gravitas, Lisa spent 11 years at McKinsey Company. She's a sought-after public speaker who imparts her hard-won knowledge on gravitas and how to best harness it. So you'll learn 1, what gravitas really means, 2, the 6 forces ruining your confidence, and 3, how to discover your confidence language. I'm Pete McKidas. This is How to Be Awesome at Your Job. And now, here's Lisa. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Pete.
Well, I'm excited to dig into the wisdom you've captured and put together in your book, Gravitas, the 8 Strengths That Redefine Confidence, because confidence is something our listeners often say, yeah, I want more of that, and I can dig it. So in your fashion business, you are on a mission to catalyze confidence. I did look that up in the dictionary. It meant what I thought it meant, to accelerate with a catalyst. So just if anyone else was wondering, but could you give us a tale from your own career story in which you had to catalyze some confidence? What went down and what'd you do?
So I was at McKinsey Company, the management consulting firm, for 11 years. And after a year of being there, I had my first annual performance review.
Oh boy.
And the opening line was, Lisa comes across as young and overly enthusiastic at times. She should seek to have more gravitas. I think we have all been told at some point in our career to be more confident. Essentially, they were saying that. And when I asked my boss, how do you get gravitas? She said, go buy a new dress, wear big jewelry and great shoes. That is the most offensive piece of feedback you can give to a 23-year-old making $43,000 a year, size 18-20, to go buy new clothes. And when I asked her why, she said, okay, really, it's not about clothes. Every morning you wake up and you're the first person you have to look at in the mirror. And you have to like yourself. I can teach you how to be good at this job, but I can't teach you how to like yourself. So I put on a dress and it reminds me I can do this job. So she said, Dumbo did not need a feather to fly. It reminded him that he could. And so what we have done and why our mission is to catalyze confidence is, how do we as adults create reminders every day of our talents and gifts? And so that's really the origin story of my company, of the book. And I know we're going to dive deeper into what we've learned, but I do think that we've got to reframe confidence, gravitas, not as a behavior, but as a choice and a mindset.
Oh, I love already. You dropping actionable wisdom on us. Thank you, Lisa. We had a really cool chat with Dr. Srini Pillai back in the day. That'll link in the show notes. And he used a cool term, psychological Halloweenism, to mean just that. There are ways you can dress up in a Halloween costume that impact you psychologically. And so for her, it was the dress. Sometimes I put on a blazer jacket. It's in my office corner. Just was like, no, Pete, you got to get serious and be Mr. Executive right now. Let's put that on. And it makes an impact. And so it's not about the clothes itself, but it can be a prop that help you get in the right mindset, like Dumbo and his feather.
Well, and I think the reason is, and this is really what we dive deep into, is if you look up the word confident in the dictionary, it has nothing to do with bravado, swagger, or performance, right? When someone tells you to be more confident, you're like, oh, I'm going to speak up, I'm going to be assertive, I'm going to stand on a stage. It's very behavioral. If you look it up in the dictionary, it's an understanding of, appreciation of, and trust in your own talents and abilities. And so that actually shifts the entire way you think about it. And the reason we as adults need reminders is we are born fully self-confident. Ask any 5-year-old what they're the best at in the world, and they'll tell you right away. You don't have to have kids, but you know this feeling. I'm the best at soccer. I'm the best at hugs. I'm the best at everything. They'll run off a long list of their accomplishments at 5. But what we found is in your adolescence, between the ages of 8 and 12, there are 6 forces that hold you back. They actually appear around the ages of 8 and 12. It's chapter 2 of my book. And so it's not our fault that we have an inner critic. Think about your adolescence is all about starting to be doubting yourself, self-consciousness. And when those forces appear, to break out of them, we actually as adults have to make a conscious choice, and we have to channel a different mindset. And reminders like a dress or a blazer, they remind us to believe in ourselves again. And it's really, if you were 5 years old, you don't need the blazer, right? But as an adult, because you've had setback, disappointment, you've experienced fear, insecurity, self-doubt, that's why we need these little tokens in our life to break ourselves out of it.
Now, I want to hear about the 6 forces soon, but first, let's just make sure we conclude the thread. So you had the conversation. It's not about the clothes, but the clothes can help it be a reminder. And what ultimately did you do in your McKinsey days to boost that confidence and get superior reviews?
Well, to be clear, I wish I could go back in time to give myself this book. I feel like you write the book you most need to read yourself. I wish I could get in the DeLorean and go back to that 22-year-old person. What I did is not what I would tell people to do today. Like, I wish I could go back and tell my 22-year-old self something quite differently. Well, parts of it. The one part I would still do is I always say the mentor chooses you. You don't choose the mentor. Make yourself mentorable. So one thing I was really good about was saying, hey, what's one thing I could do differently? I really think people are bad at giving feedback and also asking for it. It's like browsing in a store. Can I help you? Do you have any feedback for me? No, I'm just browsing. Oh no, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing well, right? So one thing I did is I took ownership of it and I said, okay, what's one thing I could do differently? What's one thing I could do differently? And over time, I enlisted a lot of people to have fingerprints on my journey. Everyone from McKinsey offered me a speech coach. So I was one of the few associates that every Friday was in front of Judy Marcus saying, let's practice my presentation. But I think what we did over the course of 11 years is we corrected the behavior, but I don't know if I ever fully corrected the mindset. So to give you an example, someone at a book reading in DC said to me, I'm going to call BS on this whole thing. I always thought of you as a very confident 20-year-old or 30-year-old. And I said, I was faking it. I was performing. I was actually still deeply insecure, overachieving, beating myself up, tons of self-loathing, but I learned how to play the game. I learned how to pretend to be assertive and outspoken, extroversion, charisma. And so I think that I was able to do it because I played into what the mold asked me to, but it wasn't enjoyable. I don't think I really liked myself during the process.
Okay. And so then how did you get to the place where you authentically had that internal deep wellspring of true confidence?
Well, I left McKinsey in 2011. I took a full year off and went around the world by myself with my BlackBerry. I don't know if any of your listeners still miss their BlackBerry. I miss my BlackBerry. That thing never died or cracked. And one of the things that I realized was the fundamental difference between our society and Asian cultures or even other cultures is our culture really celebrates extroversion and charisma.
We're talking about U.S. business culture?
U.S. Western, I would say just Western culture, North American culture, right? And for example, Kelly Shue at Yale, she's a professor. She studied 30,000 employee records. And she found that men were consistently rated highest on promotability, but lowest on actual performance and results. And women were the opposite. Women were very good at delivering results and performance, but not promotion potential. And when she double-clicked on promotion potential, it was extroversion, charisma, and outgoingness, like being outgoing. And so she said, this explains a huge part of the gender pay gap related to promotion, which is we're scoring things that you can see, but not actual results. It's like why Janet Yellen was told in 2013 she didn't have the gravitas to lead the Federal Reserve. And Ezra Klein at the Washington Post said, it's because the pervasive view of gravitas does not stretch to include her. She's soft-spoken, collaborative, by the way, the most qualified person for the job. Why is it we only label confident people as extroverted? And so that was the first unlock is in my travels, as I was reflecting on this after leaving McKinsey, it really started to make me think that, are we talking about confidence in the right way? Are we really helping people be their strongest versions of themselves? And so when I started my own company over a decade ago, I said, look, this is not about asking people to fake it to make it. This is about creating products, services, and content that really help people turn the mirror on the inside and see how valuable and strong they are. Things don't get easier, we get stronger. And I don't think we as adults acknowledge those strengths actively. We can tell you what we're working on, our opportunities, our deficits, things that aren't going well. But when I ask you and put you on the spot, Pete, and say, what are you the best at in the world? Tell it to me like a 5-year-old. You're going to sit there and go, I need to think about that question a little bit.
Yeah, it's funny. And when you say that, I do need to think about it. And it's like I guess I'd have to combine, if I'm number one in the world, I have to combine like 6 things that I'm the top 1% at. So as probabilistically multiplying them, that makes me top dog out of 8 billion. That's how I'm thinking about it.
You can't benchmark yourself. It's in your... No, but Pete, that's my whole point is like you automatically went to benchmarking it. It's not measurable. It's how you feel about yourself. It's the iceberg model of consciousness, right? 10% of the iceberg is visible. It's the behavior we can see. 90% is below the waterline and it's thoughts, values, feelings, wants, needs about ourselves. So I can tell you pretty confidently, because I've written a book about it, I can tell you now what I'm the best at in the world, because guess what? You'll never be able to measure it. It's in my own head. It's what I think I'm the best at in the world.
Well, tell us. And what is that thing, Lisa?
So I always share 2. I'm the world's best +1. Please invite me to a party. I will fetch your drinks. I won't hover. And I'm the world's best positivity mirror. So when we spend time together, I will see something in you that you may not even seen in yourself. And I will take a moment and I will reflect it back onto you so that you know that I saw you and I value you and I heard you.
And as you're thinking about this world's best piece, the focus is not so much that it is factually, demonstrably, empirically, provably, truthfully correct in like a scientific or journalistic sense of the word, but rather that your innermost depths of being are vibing with that as true. Is that accurate?
Yep, because mindset drives behavior. Carol Dweck at Stanford wrote this great book called Mindset. And she's proven over and over again that if you can reset your mindset, you can change your behavior. I'll give you a very clear example that I think some of your listeners will appreciate. I own a women's wear company, right? We make $100 to $300 workwear, and I still dress hundreds of women a year. And you can book a 30-minute appointment with me. And Pete, I'm about to give all your male listeners an insight into what every woman feels. You're welcome.
All right, I'll go take it.
Every woman comes into a dressing room with the worst self-loathing, the most negative mindset. She sets herself up to fail. Even before all those 6 forces that we're going to dive into, she brings all 6 forces of her inner critic into that dressing room. She tells me, I hate my arms. I hate my thighs. I'm going to lose 10 pounds. Like a mirror inside a dressing room, as soon as she undresses, she doesn't feel like trying on clothes. And for 10 minutes out of those 30 minutes, I don't let her talk about her body or her clothes. I ask her 3 questions. What are you most proud of in the last year of your life? If your best friend was standing here, what would they tell me about you? What are you the best at in the world? And by the way, no woman wants to answer these questions. But I always say, if we can't reset the chemistry of this room to a place of positivity, we are going to fail today. And so as she starts answering the questions, I'm like a velvet knife. You don't even feel like it's happening. I'm starting to dress her. And we start laughing and smiling. And she comes out of the dressing room, all of our mirrors on the outside. So you only get to see yourself when you're fully dressed. And she'll say, this is a skinny mirror. I'm like, nope, it's from Bed Bath & Beyond. Rest in peace, Bed Bath & Beyond. It's 1995. I can't trick you. And she go, what did you do? I said, we made a choice that this was going to work. We changed your mindset from a place of negativity to a positive place where you started to tell me all the things you love about your life. And then you let me do the work. I am a dress whisperer. I get it right on the first time. And so I use the dressing room as an analogy of how most of us wake up, right? Most of us wake up in a deficit mindset, focused on what's missing in our life or what the weaknesses are, versus focusing on the abundance we have, the talents we bring, our superpowers. And if you reset that for yourself every day, by the way, I woke up with all 6 forces in my head today. I still have to reset it. But if you can do that, that drives the behaviors and outcomes you want in life.
All right. I really dig that. It's associated with needing to do a reset in the morning. And I'll tell you what's been most effective for me is straight up dunking into cold water. It's like my brain is not capable of having many other thoughts, but they're like, oh, that's cool. And then I'm kind of rejuvenated. I was like, all right. It's almost like I wash away that stuff. So now that is
maybe that's your little black dress. That's your little black dress, right? That
it could be.
You don't need a blazer this morning. You're just going to dunk yourself in cold water. The thing is, as I'm putting on my clothes for the day, and I have to wear Gravitas every day, we literally have the word gravitas sewn into the back of the clothing. It's the clothing label, right? And so that's literally a ritual for me of I woke up with all 6 forces, focused on the weaknesses in my life. And as I'm dressing, I'm like, okay, I'm the gravitas woman. All right. I validate myself. I tell myself what I'm proud of from the previous day. I really go through this ritual. And I think that's what we're trying to help people do is reset their minds before they take on the day.
Yes. Let's hear about the array of rituals that you've seen in your work and discovered are effective for people. So I mentioned cold water. You're talking about a great dress, some validation. Show us, what does this look like in practice and what are some different flavors of it?
Well, and this is maybe I take away from rituals and more about the approach we've built. But I always say confidence is not a state of being. It's a total approach because every single day you're going to face setback, disappointment, fear, insecurity. And so it's really about creating an approach in your life. The 3 parts of the approach is 1, identify which of the 6 forces you're feeling. And I know we're going to go into them, but I think it's really important before you diagnose insecurity or fear to know what's driving it. It's like why you don't ask kids if they're sad. You say, what happened? You double click on it. So I feel like we need to do a better work in having conversations with our inner critic. Like, what is driving me feeling this way? The second part is, I always say, you've got to be able to take a self-affirming inventory of your strengths and talents. And in our work, we identified 8 superpowers. Most of us have 2 or 3. My mom, who is my guru, has all 8. She's like, I take your quiz. I have all 8 of them. So you can take a free quiz from us and discover what your superpowers are. But then the third part, and I think this is the really important one, is really believing in those superpowers, connecting them to real life events, starting to really understand and advocate for your talents, but also decide where you have gaps. A lot of people take our quiz and they'll say, okay, I have 3 of them, but there's ones I don't have. I'm like, well, first of all, love the 3 you have. It's not like Pokemon. You don't need to catch them all. But of the 5 you don't have, what do you want in life? And which of those 5 do you want to cultivate? So you take real ownership. As people progress and climb the ladder, they go from having 2 superpowers to 4 or more. And we found that in our longitudinal quantitative data over the course of 5 years. So if I step back from it, it's like diagnose what's driving insecurity and fear in your life. Be able to create a self-affirming inventory of your strengths and talents. And then the third thing is take ownership of what capabilities you want to grow and advocate for and own over time.
All right. Well, let's dig into it. These 3 pieces of approach in some depth. What are these 6 forces and how do we identify them?
So the 6 forces, the first is called the deficit mindset. This is where you view weakness or what's missing over your potential and your strengths. The easiest way to diagnose this one is when you look in the mirror, do you look for the wrinkles or your beautiful eyes? The second one is called shrinking effect. This is where you shortchange yourself or underestimate your own abilities versus others or a standard. The example I use here is, this is why people say sorry all the time without actually being sorry, because they just think they must be in the wrong. Or this is why women will only apply for a job if they're 100% qualified, whereas men will often apply if they're only 60% qualified. It's good enough, right? But if you have shrinking effect, you're like, I have to be perfect to sit in that seat. You shortchange what you're offering to the world. The third force is called satisfaction conundrum. This is where you tie your self-worth or happiness to an external marker of success. I'll be happy when I lose 10 pounds. I'll be happy when I get that promotion. I'll be happy when I get that car. The problem is when you tie your self-worth, it doesn't mean we shouldn't have goals and ambitions, but when you tie all of your self-worth to a single marker, if you get it, you just chase the next one. Oh, I lost 10 pounds. I think I could lose 5 more, right? It's a treadmill. Or if you don't get it, you beat yourself up for not getting it. And so every time I didn't make partner at McKinsey, I literally took it out on myself. I had this brass ring that I tied all of my happiness to, when I should have stepped back and said, you know what? I'm really creating value. I have a lot going on in my life. This one thing didn't happen for me. Okay, I need to figure out all the other gifts I bring to the table. The fourth we call superhero facade. This is where you go, I got this. Every part of my life is perfect. And you try to tell the world that you're a superhero. The problem with that approach is the most successful people in life will say, you know what? Whenever you see me succeeding over here, I promise you I'm failing somewhere else. And when you can talk about where you're failing, you invite people to have fingerprints on the journey and to help you and make you even more successful. So the most confident people in the world do not tell you they're perfect or they're superheroes. They'll in fact tell you the reverse. The fifth force is we call setback spiral. This is where a negative moment, a criticism, a disappointment spirals to expound all parts of your life. So this person gave me a piece of criticism. That must mean I'm terrible sister, daughter, friend. You start to say, okay, all parts of my life are off, even though this is squarely just in one part of it. And the sixth force is systemic bias. This is where there are asymmetrical structures of power at work, where the rules were not created by you or for you. So it took me twice as long to get to the same markers of leadership as my male colleagues. Well, reflecting back on that, I would say when I joined McKinsey in September of 2000, only 13% of the global partnership were women. There weren't that many people that looked like me. So maybe part of this wasn't me. This was the system wasn't built to see someone like me yet. And my favorite article from Harvard Business Review the last 4 years, written by my two friends, Ruchika Tulshan and Jodi Bury, is stop telling women they have imposter syndrome, because it implies we're criminals or unwell, when in fact, a lot of it was driven by systemic bias, that the rules just weren't created by us or for us. But in total, these six forces allow you to have a vocabulary to say, okay, right now, the way I'm feeling, it's satisfaction conundrum. I'm tying so much of my happiness to this one marker. Okay, Lisa, how do I go fix that now? But I think it's really important to diagnose which one you're feeling.
Well, yes, that is handy for sure, because like a good consultant knows, when you properly segment the problem, you'll see there are very different solutions, whether it's a factor 1 versus factor 4. So tell us, once we zero in on that, what do we do about it?
Well, then what you do is I always say, okay, now you've had a conversation with your inner critic. You've explored why you're feeling this way, what the worst case scenario could be. And now you can drown it out with the megaphone of your superpowers. Because when you know your strengths and talents, it changes the solution space. You can focus on what you do have and what you can bring to the table. You have gas in the tank to keep going. And so for us, we did launch a quantitative study, and you can take the quiz at myconfidencelanguage.com for free. And you can discover, of the 8 superpowers you've identified, which ones you have, and lean into those. So I'm happy to walk through those 8 and then give you an example of how that changed my life, if that helps. Pete, do you want to go there?
Let's do it. Yes, please. Let's hear it.
Okay, so let's do it. So the 8 superpowers: leading, I set direction, I'm in charge, I inspire followership. Performing, that's what you and I are doing together right now. We're on center stage, extroversion, charisma, the exchange of energy between two people. Those 2 superpowers are the most written about and talked about. Less than 20% of people in America have them.
Okay.
So the 6 that cover 80%, and by the way, if we led and performed all day, nothing would get done. The other ones are achieving and knowing. I get things done with a winner's mindset. I love goals and I love meeting, exceeding them. It's being an athlete. Knowing, I'm the smartest, most well-researched, most process-oriented person in the room. You want to build IKEA furniture with someone who has knowing as their superpower. The best example of this is the 3 Black women from the movie Hidden Figures. How do 3 Black women have the gravitas to send a man into space at NASA? They weren't the leaders, they weren't the performers, they were the achievers and the knowers. The next 2 are giving and believing. I support others, I'm empathetic. Believing, I'm optimistic, I see the best in everyone. The best example of these forms of confidence, Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso actually says, I was underestimated my whole life because I'm not a commander, I'm not a leader. I'm here to help everyone become the best versions of themselves. I'm not here to win or lose. I'm here to believe. And so that's a unique form of confidence that is undervalued and underestimated in the workplace. The last 2 are creating and self-sustaining. Creating is my number 1. I can believe in things before I see them. I love the future, ideas. I create something from nothing. And self-sustaining, this is the hardest one for most people to get. I like myself. I don't need to impress you. I don't need external validation. It's the quality most needed to ask for a raise, a favor, overcome criticism. But together, all 8 of them start to create a different inventory for your life. So, for example, my confidence language is creating. I'm the daughter of immigrants. I know what it takes to create something from nothing, right? Immigrants believe in things before they can see them. Performing, that's what we're doing now. Leading, being in charge, and giving. And so I know that those are the 4 I have. By the way, my team has opposite languages because my language doesn't get anything done. Most of my team is achieving, giving, knowing, believing. They get things done. They stay organized. They keep everyone motivated. And so you got to have that language. And the reason why that's so important, right? I make women's workwear. In March of 2020, when the pandemic started, our sales were not zero. They were negative. We had to refund people because we have a 30-day return policy. If you just bought a dress to go to the office from us, you send it back to us. And so what we did is we did not let those 6 forces hold us. We didn't focus on what we didn't have, right? I could have spiraled. I could have had deficit mindset. What I did instead is I said, team, what are our superpowers? What do we have right now that no one else has? I put on LinkedIn, and this is my performing and creating superpower at work. I said, the sales of my company were negative. No superhero facade. If you need hospital gowns or face masks, we can get them to you. DM me. And Uwe Voss, the CEO of HelloFresh, DM'd me and said, we need 2,500 face masks in Newark right away. How can we help? And so we pivoted our business for 72 days during the pandemic to making personal protective equipment. And that was only possible because we focused on our superpowers and our strengths, not our deficits and our weaknesses. My team's confidence language, they got it done. They organized the spreadsheets. They got people to come in and work. It's really about focusing on your strengths and having that growth-based mindset instead of a deficit mindset.
That's really cool. Really cool. And so now I'm thinking here, so we identify the forces that aren't working for us so much, as well as identifying our superpower. How does that knowledge then translate into the feeling of, all right, in my innermost depths, I'm confident and ready to rock? How do I make that leap from the knowing to the feeling?
Well, so once you've discovered your superpowers, I always say you've made the unconscious conscious, right? So the good news is you now have words attached to your talents. And the quiz is not wrong. A lot of people take our quiz and they go, whoa, I have 5 out of the 8. I'm like, are you surprised? They're like, yes. I said, you've been underestimating or under leveraging yourself your whole life. You've got a lot. Or these are the ones I don't have. I'm like, don't focus on those. Focus on the ones you have. To own it though, I always tell people, take a moment you're really proud of in life and deconstruct it through the lens of your superpowers. Why did your superpowers drive that outcome? Connect it to a specific memory. It's like that movie Inside Out from Pixar, right? Your brain can only remember core memories. I can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday, but it has these little core memories that form the basis of your character. So take one of those core memories and say, I have 5 superpowers. What is it about me that made that happen? Because we're so focused on looking at the summit that we don't turn back around to see how much we've accomplished. By doing that, you start to believe in it. It's one thing to take a quiz. It's another thing to actually believe in the results. After that, then you can start to say, okay, how am I going to advocate for that? How can I show up? How can I make sure I get credit for my talents? And where are the places I want to add to my superpower portfolio? So the example I just shared with you of pivoting my company to making personal protective equipment for 72 days, I can connect that to my 4 superpowers. I can say, this is why I got us here. By the way, these are my team's superpowers and how they contributed. So I really believe in my confidence language. If I tie it back to what I'm the best at in the world, I'm really high on performing. So that doesn't surprise you when I tell you I'm the world's best +1. When I tell you I'm the world's best positivity mirror, that's giving. You can actually start to see all these things come together.
Oh, lovely. Could you share with us another story of someone else who had things come together in terms of they worked through these approaches? And where do they start? What do they discover? And where do they land?
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. In chapter 1 of my book, I talk about a woman named Susan, and she is in finance. And she came to me and she said, oh, my boss just told me I didn't have gravitas. And this is one of the funny things. I always think when you tell people to be more confident, it's anxiety inducing, it's ambiguous. I kind of want to say, which of these 8 superpowers do you want me to embody? And I said, okay, I know he can't take the quiz, but which of these 8 superpowers is your boss, is your CEO? And she said, okay, he came up through sales. He's probably performing, he's leading, and he's achieving. Okay, got it. I said, let's have you take the quiz. And she goes, oh my gosh, I'm knowing, achieving, and giving. We overlap on the achievement. Like I always hit a number, but I'm not extroverted, right? So I don't have performing. I don't have leading. And she goes, so when he says I don't have gravitas, it means I'm not leading, performing. And I said, okay, but are you getting credit for being giving and knowing. She goes, you know what? That's not in his style. And I said, but you take care of everyone. You're the smartest person driving the process. You're VP of finance. And I said, it's actually a double-edged sword. Number one, when you do your weekly check-ins, make sure you're taking credit for the things that he's not seeing, right? The way in which you build relationships, take care of others on the team, the way you've built out process, the way you think about numbers. You need to make sure you get credit for being achieving, knowing, and giving. At the same time, you can say to him, hey, to get to the next level of leadership, I think what you're saying is I need to work on my leading and performing skills. And she did that. And he said, yes. He said, that's what I mean by gravitas. I need you to speak up more in meetings. I need you to be seen as setting direction more actively. But you're right. I have not acknowledged that you are the most collaborative and empathetic person on the team. And it's funny, McKinsey did a report that said women are the reason why companies made it through the pandemic. But the ideas of collaboration, empathy, care, they're not on the traditional HR scorecard, right? Because women didn't write the scorecard to begin with. So how do we give them credit for those things? And ultimately what happened is she got promoted to CFO after 2 years because she got recognition for the qualities that she brought to the table, but she added superpowers. She actually retook the quiz and she said, I have 4.5 superpowers now. That is so different than 2 years ago when I only had 3. Thank you so much. I feel stronger that I can advocate for myself in this environment. But she was promoted to the C-suite in less than 2 years.
Oh, lovely. Well, Lisa, tell me, anything else you want to make sure to mention before we shift gears and hear about some of your favorite things?
Thank you, Pete. No, I mean, I love that this is how to be awesome at your job. And I think being awesome starts with recognizing how powerful you really are.
One sponsor to check out is Harvard Business Review. This brilliant magazine, published at hbr.org, is the leading destination for smart management thinking. Fun fact, HBR has been mentioned in 108 episodes of the show. That's because HBR has great stuff that comes up often. They've got explainer videos, podcasts, real-world case studies, and much more. I think of HBR each night that I put on my special orange glasses. Their article, Will Blue Light Glasses Improve Your Sleep?, revealed that those who wore them reported better sleep and a 7% improvement in work performance as compared to those who wore the sham glasses. So I cite HBR anytime anyone tells me that I look silly wearing them. Now, much of HBR's content is available for free when you sign up at their site. Subscriptions that get you unlimited content cost $10 a month. If you visit hbr.org/subscriptions and enter the promo code AWESOME, you can save 10% off of that subscription. Again, to save 10% off of your HBR subscription, go to www.hbr.org/subscriptions and enter the promo code AWESOME. One sponsor to check out is Storyworth. Whenever I'm thinking about meaningful Father's Day gifts, Storyworth leaps to mind. Storyworth helps you preserve precious memories and stories from your father for years to come. Each week, Storyworth emails your loved ones a thought-provoking question that you get to help pick, such as, what's the bravest thing you've ever done? I personally love the prompt so much that I have refreshed Storyworth's questions page many times looking for more. Storyworth makes the writing process super quick and easy. All your loved one needs to do is respond to that email with a story, and then you get a quick copy of that. And after a year of this fun, Storyworth compiles your loved one's stories and photos into a beautiful keepsake hardcover book that you'll be able to share and revisit for generations to come. Families love Storyworth so much, they've got 25,000 five-star reviews on Trustpilot and have millions of stories preserved. So give all the fathers in your life a unique, heartfelt gift they'll all cherish for years. Storyworth. Right now, you can save $10 on your first purchase when you go to storyworth.com/awesome. That's storyworth.com/awesome to save $10 on your first purchase. And big thanks to our sponsor, Acorns. Acorns makes it easy to start automatically saving and investing for your future. You don't need a lot of money or expertise to invest with Acorns. In fact, you can get started with just your spare change. Acorns recommends an expert-built portfolio that fits you and your money goals, then automatically invests your money for you. NerdWallet.com, whom I love on these sorts of matters, gives Acorns a whopping 4.7 stars and says, quote, if you want to make the most of your spare change, there's no better place to do that than Acorns. Head to acorns.com/awesome or download the Acorns app to start saving and investing for your future today. And we got a legal disclaimer here. It may not be representative of all clients. Tier 1 compensation provided. Compensation provides an incentive to positively promote Acorns. View important disclosures at acorns.com/awesome. Investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. Please consider your objectives, risk tolerance, and Acorns' fees before investing. Acorns Advisors LLC, Acorns, is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Brokerage services are provided to clients of Acorns by Acorns Securities LLC, member FINRA/SIPC. For more information, visit acorns.com. Okay. Well, now could you share with us a favorite quote? Something you find inspiring?
My favorite one is my best friend, Jane Park, who is the founder of Toki, Tokki. She always says, life doesn't get easier, we get stronger. And what I love about that is it focuses on the fact that there are no regrets, only learnings in life. And that the more we view every single moment of our life as an opportunity to get stronger, the stronger we get.
All right. And a favorite study or experiment or bit of research?
I really think Kelly Shu at Yale did a phenomenal job with her study. I'm going to give her a shout out. It was awesome.
All right. And a favorite book?
My favorite book is Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence Others. And it's ironic because he focuses mostly on extroversion and charisma, right? Smile, shake hands, be engaged, learn. And 100 years ago, that book was formative in terms of changing the way in which we relate to each other. But the real reason it's my favorite book, because I think what we've done is we've expanded what I hope Dale Carnegie, if he were still alive today, would love the expansion we've done on his work about adding more qualities and superpowers to the equation. But when I was 12 years old, I was a freshman in high school, and my parents realized they could not afford the education that I wanted, right? Or they wanted for me. Let's be clear. I went to a fancy college. It was $28,000 to go to an Ivy League college in 1996. And so my dad went around town and he asked, how can I help my kid make $28,000 a year to send her to college? And this is before endowments were releasing financial aid left and right. And the local Toastmasters chapter said, hey, the Rotary Club, the Lions Club, they have these student speaking competitions. Your kid could win $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. We will train her to become a public speaker. And so I got to join Toastmasters at the age of 12. And when you join, the founder of the chapter that I joined in California gave me a copy of Dale Carnegie's book. I still have it. It says 99 cents. And he said, this is the first book you're going to read. Because think about it, a Taiwanese immigrant daughter had to learn how to operate in Western culture. And the Toastmasters and Dale Carnegie taught me how to show up that way. So I ended up winning $20,000 in speaking money to pay for my first year of college, and then had another scholarship for year 2. But that book, I still love that book mostly because of the memory and the way it changed my life so early on.
Yeah, it's beautiful. We had Joe Hart, who's the CEO of the Dale Carnegie organization, currently on the show, and we stay in touch. So I will let him know. Yeah.
Will you tell him I'm obsessed with the book and him, and I have a personal connection to Dale Carnegie's teachings?
All right. And now, how about a favorite tool? Something that you use to be awesome at your job?
So my favorite tool, I still own a Levenger.
Oh, yeah.
Old school Levenger. I still write out every day my priorities, and I block out time on my calendar to think. So I still use a Levenger. I'm old school.
And those who are not in the know, these are those handy notebooks with the discs so that you could remove pages and put them back in, right?
Yes.
And a favorite habit, something you do that helps you be awesome at your job.
So I do 2 things. One is I am a hip hop dancer. So I dance in a dance class 5 days a week at Anna Kaiser Studios, and I really love the power of dance. So that's one thing that I do. The second thing is once a week, I turn off my phone for 8 hours, and it's usually on a Saturday. And of those 8 hours, I will go to a museum. I'm lucky I live in New York City, so I recognize that's not for everyone. And I will just let my brain turn off for an hour or 2, just looking at beautiful art or something that I want to learn about. But I find that because we're always in response mode, that we don't give our brain waves the chance to amplify and lengthen. And I actually turn it off. It's not like do not disturb, because you can still see if text messages are coming in. I literally turn it off for 8 hours.
All right. And is there a key nugget you share that really seems to connect and resonate with folks that they quote back to you often?
The one that I get quoted most often is self-confidence is a choice and a mindset before it becomes a behavior.
Okay. And if folks want to learn more or get in touch, where would you point them?
I would say first, make sure you take the quiz at myconfidencelanguage.com. It's really fun. At Lisa Elle Sun and at Gravitas New York on all social media platforms. And if it's LinkedIn, I really am responsive on LinkedIn Messenger, more so than email.
And you have a final challenge or call to action for folks looking to be awesome at their jobs?
How to be awesome at your job, I think, starts with recognizing how awesome you are first.
All right, cool. We got it. All right, Lisa, this has been a lot of fun. I wish you all the best and much gravitas and confidence in your adventures.
Thank you so much, Pete. Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate Lisa's perspective on how most of us wake up in a deficit mindset. And it can be very natural, just kind of go with the flow and let that internal mental chatter run things, influence things, diminish things throughout the day. So that's one of my huge takeaways here, is to really, really, really make sure to prioritize early on the means by which you're going to shift out of that deficit mindset, tap into some superpowers. Maybe it's the cold water. Maybe that's the validation. Maybe it's an awesome dress or suit or blazer or jacket situation. But for it to be something and for it to be built into the plan, the fabric of the day. Powerful stuff from Lisa. If you'd like a summary write-up of this conversation and subsequent summaries delivered right to your inbox and prior summaries unlocked, the whole archive, 936 of them, we call those the gold nuggets at awesomeatyourjob.com. We recommend you sign up there. And if you want to read the particular notes and transcript and such for this episode, you can find that over at awesomeatyourjob.com/EP936. Hope to catch you next time, and peace.
Thanks for listening. To get the most out of the show, we recommend 2 key things. First, check out the extra resources at awesomeatyourjob.com. You can find this episode's transcript and links, as well as the perfect episode for your situation. You can search the full text transcripts of hundreds of episodes or explore episodes tagged by topic and competency covered. Second, subscribe to the podcast and get future episodes automatically. You can subscribe by telling Siri and several other smartphones and speakers, subscribe to the How to Be Awesome at Your Job podcast, or by tapping subscribe in your podcast player of choice. If you'd like some extra help figuring out podcasts and how subscriptions work, visit awesomeatyourjob.com/subscribe for guidance. Hope to catch you on the next episode of How to Be Awesome at Your Job.